defeated. Down with the police. Down with guns. Down with brutality. What do you want us to do now? Oh my God, there's the other company. I'd rather be a picket than a scar. Oh, I'd rather be a picket than a scar. Oh, I'd rather be a picket. Rather be a picket. Rather be a picket than a scar.
Well, you asked them to let them question you. Because she's tall now and lost a lot of weight.
No way.
No, I saw you said
The women of the South Wales mining valleys have a long and lively history of industrial and political struggle. It is a history which seems to be all but lost to popular consciousness, even among people with a great awareness of past struggles. The most abiding image, and the one we still perhaps find easiest to accept, is the combination of efficiency and caring displayed in these soup kitchen photographs of 1926. The Rhondda writer, Gwyn Thomas, recalled a diet of soup and dumplings served by smiling and splendid women. But the historian Angela John has pointed out that it was often the men who ran the kitchens. She says, the experience they had gained as cooks during the war was being put into practice as they performed this public and applauded service. But as Marion Phillips recalled in her memoir of 1926, this was the first occasion in which Labour women used their organisation to carry out the work of an industrial Red Cross, what has been described in the present dispute as an alternative welfare system. For 7 months, thousands of working-class women throughout the coalfields were engaged in a massive relief operation. As in the present struggle, women from the mining areas travelled to London as speakers. When miners' wives spoke, collections increased. For the first time, an official delegation of working-class women visited Russia. By January 1927, the Women's Committee had collected over £300,000. As in 1926, the huge self-help operation of the mining communities has been vital in sustaining the 1984 strike.
Either 5 or 6 weeks into the strike that we started it off.
Yes. Where does the money come from?
Well, a big variety of places actually. We have some from local people around here, local industry that give us, you know, say £1 or £2, whatever it is, out of their wages each week. We also get a tremendous amount of donations from London, from different Labour parties and street collections. There's a lesbian and gay group which give us a lot of money. outcomes. There are so many of them in London that I can't remember them all, actually. Tremendous amount of outcomes. We have money from North Wales. People collect street collections and things like that, and Labour Party levies again. Southampton, Swindon. We get quite a bit of money actually now from Sweden as well, which comes through. They give us a lot of presents as well at Christmas time for children, all wrapped up with the age and the sex of the child on the label and wishing everyone a happy Christmas. We get donations. I get quite a few donations through the post of people that have read articles in the paper or, are in sympathy with us, and they send money through as well. So, I mean, it comes from, a big area. That just money seems to come from all over the place. We had a conversation in the colliery, actually, a few weeks into the strike, and phoned me up to see whether it would be possible to start up any sort of food distribution. What can we do in general? We didn't know what to do, actually, in the beginning. And that's basically how it started, It was just a simple idea. And then it spread. We incorporated 7 sisters in with us. And then eventually we, each village came in with us, and we've got 2 towns as well. So it makes 9 centres altogether. 9 different centres have food from us. It's 1 in the Neath Valley. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 down in the Dillais Valley. And then there are 4 in the Swansea Valley. Well, the food parcels that go out this week will be going out 1,085. So that's how many families or single men. I mean, the single man has the same parcel as a family will have, because he doesn't get any money, of course, from Social Security. So we think it's just as important for the single man, it's more important really for the single man to have a large parcel than it is for a family to have. We roughly get each week about £6,000. So as you can imagine, it's a tremendous amount of money from when we started off. We did have more at Christmas. We found that people were far more sympathetic perhaps to the children's needs at Christmas. I think if a lot of the support groups hadn't set up, I think a lot more people might have gone back to work, because the pressures are very hard. And I think that this has made things a lot easier, knowing that, at least you can feed the people for X amount of days now.
An important area of action for women has been in the fight against non-unionism. They were extremely effective, and consequently reviled by the coal owners' press and the magistrates who saw them in court. In 1906, when the Western Mail published these cartoons, it had taken the women just over a week to conclude a successful action against non-unionists, hunting them out from cupboards, coal houses, lofts and fields. Using their traditional white shirt or painting them with black lead, and with a combination of force, mockery and theatrical show, they made the men pay their union dues. After Tonopandi in 1910, official reports particularly mentioned the prominence of women in the disturbances. In 1926, following the bitter end of the lockout, many women were among those fined or imprisoned. Magistrates complained that they were too prominent in the disturbances, and that some were women of age, mothers, and probably grandmothers who should know better. In October 1929, the Western Mail reported excitedly,
"I came to the strike zone today to ascertain for myself what truth there was in these allegations of terrorism in these unhappy mining valleys. There must have been nearly 2,000 people in the street, and women predominated. Scores of women, hatless and menacing, stood on garden walls. The women seemed possessed by a frenzy as they beat a barbaric tattoo with their feet on the corrugated roofs of the garden sheds, and poured imprecations on the heads of the workers. The women are more fanatical than the men. They ask strangers, why should 21 men render 3,000 idle, and what about the women and the children? Bands of women signalised the approach of the 4 workmen by a loud beating of cans, kettles, frying pans, and a great deal of booing and jeering.
First of all, we'll have a report from the women's meeting announced that that's the meeting of all the South Wales women's groups which are held fortnightly. The last one was announced last night. And then perhaps Bina could give us a short report from
Chesterfield. She was one of the delegates from South Wales who went to the National Women Against Pit Closures meeting in Chesterfield a couple of weeks ago. And then we had a discussion on the rally, All Wales Women Rights, to see how far they've got. And the main problem people brought up was finding buses to get to the rally, because everyone is short of money for buses. We discussed picketing, mainly the DHSS on the 26th of November, which we'll talk about in detail. And picketing with Port Talbot Court, the men who were in the cranes in Port Talbot are on in court again on December the 7th. 20 women from the Swansea went down to support them. If you remember them, we sent a bus down there. It was supposed to be a major demonstration, but unfortunately it was transport again. The other groups can't get transport to get down there. So I'd like to see a big turnout again to support these men. Pat was in Canada. She went in Canada last Sunday with 17 other women, 11 from the Dylai Sally, were in support group, and the rest from two from Canada, various other groups and Fergun. So I don't know if Pat would like to say something about what happened in Canada.
Once we got in there, we had to keep very quiet. About 5 o'clock we started barricading ourselves in. Then of course the first lot of scabs came in to go to work. And we noticed there were, I think, 3 men on that bus who were dressed in different colour polo neck jumpers. And once they got off the bus, they walked straight over to where the police were and got into police uniforms. So we were wondering whether they were just travelling on the bus to make other people think there was more men going back to work. We don't really know why they did that. As I said, we couldn't do a lot because there was not enough women there. We did get the man in his office. We tried to get the keys for the downstairs building off him. And we did that by myself and another girl said that I'd kept my finger. And he said, oh, come down back and we'll see to it. And off we did. We'd opened a tin of sardines with tomato sauce and covered my finger in tomato sauce, put a tissue around it and put all tomato sauce around there. And once we got in the offices, we sort of, while he was looking at my finger, Sean slammed the door and said, right, sit down, empty pocket, we want the keys to the building. But he didn't have that.
And you see this back to work campaign, they've got I
agree, we've got to be ready for action any time. But I think this week is really important.
Have you got any ideas then? What we can do? How we can do it? And is it worth trying to find against somebody's house?
And we take our team with us and we can stay down for the rally in the evening.
Well, the problem with taking children is they're meeting in the evening. Unless, say if I got to take my two, I go down by the car so I could come back and not go to the meeting. Because I think it's good to see children in the demonstration. It wouldn't take long to walk to Pontevedra, is it? Half an hour?
No, it wouldn't take long.
No. Exactly.
About a silent walk through the village, you know, if you say there's a minibus full of you, you get at one end of the village, drive the minibus to the other, and just walk silently through the village, just with the banners, just silently. Not saying anything.
Right, the next thing that's very important on the agenda is picketing again, or more demonstration. On the 26th of November, which is next Monday, in London is going to be a major demonstration against the DHSS. They've taken £15 off you already, the strike pay you're supposed to be getting. And also the pound increase you're entitled to, started from November 26th, you won't be having the miners and strike won't get. So we've got quite a few nails from Swansea and Leicester already who want to go down to Morriston. It needn't be violent, it's just hand out these passers-by and say, try to get to see the manager and try to explain to people that you're not having the money, the DHS has taken your money off you and you want it back.
It's very good to see you all come to this meeting and get together because,
we had an awful lot of difficulty with any support at all from the NUM. We were very worried about financial arrangements because we didn't have any money, being someone who was just sort of organising the rally, and we didn't have any financial support of anyone, not really. And I think the NUM, they say that they're doing a marvellous job of supporting them, but I think it must work both ways. I think if we do the supporting, we have at least the right to go to them and say, would they help us, even if it's with a small donation to start us off. But I must endorse what Petra got to say, they didn't want to know. And I think,
you know, with these rallies, I think it's wonderful. I'd be one of the first to put my name down to vote to these rallies for transport. But I think the bigger problem now is starting at the return to work. I was on the picket line last week at Markham, and so was my colleagues, on the picket line at Markham. I'd like to see from the rest of these women's support group having tried to organise a mass picket of women. Right. So I think some of that £150 that you are there could go in transport, or pay for transport, to get the women to all these picket lines. To try and stop these scabs going through, because it's at the grassroots, it's here you've got to stop her. Unless you've got to stop them from getting a call out before you stop them and go to the power stations. Before the call go to the power stations and stop the call coming up and stop these scabs.
We've talked about all the fundraising, we've talked about our rallying. Now there's a much more important thing going on in South Wales at the moment, and it is the scabbing. Like that lady there, we're on the picket line at 3 o'clock every morning. And there's enough women in this room tonight. If you can't go picketing, there's a better thing. I can't say everybody can go picketing, but you all go to your food centres. And I think it's time that everybody got firm and spoke to the other women. Get their husbands out, all themselves in the picket line, and if not, at least defer this return to work.
Kim Howells spoke at a Trades and Labour Council meeting in Pontypridd a fortnight ago, where he said he was sorry to say, but mass picketing did not work.
I'm sorry, we have never had a mass picket in South Wales, and Dr. Kim Howells is wrong because it's never been tried. And it's very easy for that man to sit in Pontypridd office, like the rest of South Wales executives, that are willing to speak in speeches and rallies, such as Terry Thomas. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't see the boys being kicked on the road by the police or overpowered.
I'd also like to say that the mass picket that we had in Port Albert, which we felt was quite successful, we had money problems then with transport. And there was also people dropping out of that, and cross wires, cross communications and all the rest of it, but it still came off, because the women there at Transport House, when we made that decision, were determined that it would come off. If we could get the same spinach here tonight, right, I think we could pull it off, to know that, so that they will know that the women are not going to fade away to the background, despite the amount of scabs that are going in. That we will and can do it if we're determined in it.
So, right, now, can you tell me how you want to organise this picket?
Order the buses and go.
What have I done, darling?
Left house, please. To the left house, please. Right? Come on in. For the tram. I was going to come on in. Very pleased because I'm... Because they're around today. Oh my God. Put that light down low. Those are 2 police vans. That's it. Hey, see that, girls? We'll have them. Any for winners? What shall we do with the knackered workers? What shall we do with the knackered workers? Early in the morning. Burn, burn, burn the bastards. Burn, burn, burn the bastards. Burn, burn, burn the bastards. Early in the morning. you want us to take a photo of you?
Through the 1930s, the fight for the union continued alongside other struggles, local, national and international. The massive demonstrations against the means test and the unemployment benefit rates, against high prices and rents, and the breakup of family and communities caused by distress and government policy, and in anti-war and anti-fascist activity. In 1984, the women of the Swansea, Neath and Dulwich valleys feel that they too are fighting for more than job security for the men. While the women's movement can be seen in the light of a long tradition of militancy, some of the women have themselves seen the strike as a turning point in their personal histories.
It's right down around these parts of this area because, well, I'm not old, right? But I mean, in 33 years then, I've seen Abercraves, right?
And Sked, right?
And Sked. I don't remember the Double Diamond over there. There's Oinkloin close by here. Seven Sisters.
There were
close.
14 collieries in this valley, and there's 2 here now.
And there's Jenny older than any of us, yeah.
Yeah.
And she was
And
in the 20 strike.
with every colliery that has been closed. Oh yes, definitely.
But if my husband loses his job now, he will never work again. He's 30 years of age and he will never work again.
There just aren't any other industries whatsoever around this area. And it's no good saying travel the country to find one because there aren't any other jobs around the country either.
That's the next one I have. Will you tell that to the
Travel and find
1.5
work.
million people who try
There
to
just
try
aren't
it.
any. Doesn't matter how well qualified you are or how poorly qualified you are, you just can't get a job and that's it.
But the first couple of, the first sort of 2 or 3 months, it'll end next week. Because, it was just like the fortnight strike of 81. It'll end next week.
Finish.
It'll end next week.
Now we go on from day to day. We just take it as it comes from day to day and from week to week. We don't think when it's going to end, how it's going to end. That is unimportant.
How it's going to end is
It
important.
must end our way, the right way. And that's the only way we think of it. It's not when, but how.
But people ask you, how do you manage? We've never had a lot of money in South Wales. I have never had a lot of money.
No.
I think a lot of women have gained a lot from this as well, though, because they've developed a social life, if you like, around the food parcels.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women are actually enjoying it. And I'm not saying enjoying the strike, don't get me wrong, but enjoying the social contact that they've achieved through it.
I was going to say, you know.
And the communities are back together again. 11 months ago, we never knew you. No, you didn't. We've made so many friends and contacts. It's wonderful.
And we've done so many different things too. And been to different places.
Because we're all in the same position.
Yes. Nobody's better off than anyone else. Everybody's in the same
predicament.
Yes.
Well, we intend to keep the support group going.
The personal confidence can't waver, can it? I mean, it's
So that
something
we
that we
can-
found now
Yeah.
that is just going to gain momentum. There's no way you can go back on it.
So we can help people in trouble in the communities.
Well, not
That's our
only
intention.
Not only in our community, I mean, we've had support from people who themselves have admitted that if we, they've got fights coming when ours is over. So we've got a lot of debts to pay back when this is over, so we need to stay as a group.
If we're going to give in now, we're going to let lots of people down.
But now, there's something else that's good has come out of it. Everybody's accepted. I think the last straw was the gays and lesbians. I mean, the kind of remarks that are made about homosexuals in a community like ours are well known. And exactly. And I suppose there are homosexuals within our community, but they have to cover it up because of the attitudes. But when this lot arrived on our doorstep, I mean, some of them stayed with me, and I was worried about how I was going to react. And the first thing they said to me was, from a cup of tea, well, how did they take it round here when they found out a load of queers were coming down for the weekend? Well, that was the ice was broken, wasn't it? And we had a tremendous night, didn't we?
Yes, wonderful.
I know, that was the last taboo gone. It's not only benefited us personally, but I think it's benefited the whole area. It's educated people.
It's broadened everyone's.
And the money they send, it's brought all the communities closer together.
We are far stronger communities.
Yes.
I think that the communities were sort of beginning to split up a bit, because there are other industries in the villages now, not just mining industries, where it used to be the old front doors used to be open and people used to pop in and out. Well, it's like that again now. you find that people's doors are open for you
Like
now.
I remember
and
it.
you pop in and
When
out.
we used to have a little chat on the gate.
Yes. But you get that again now, don't you? Go down the street and there are people out on the streets talking now. Well, before it was morning.
You'd be out till you busy and you'd be having a chat.
Yes.
Because I used to tell Shirley when she'd get in. I said, the street never used to be like this, Shirley. No. We all used to be out, and especially in the summer until about 12 o'clock in the night, gassing on the gates.
It's gone like London, isn't
Yeah.
it?
We were going like London.
You didn't know
whether you were a dead or alive.
doing or whatever.
But today, it's not like that anymore.
It's better again now.
Like I wouldn't have known you a year ago.
No. Wouldn't have known any
I
of you.
wouldn't have known neither of you three. I'd know these two because they live. This one is belonging to me, the other one is my neighbour. But otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
No, I don't think there was anyone in, that I'm friendly with now through the street that I knew before at all.
Yeah.
They're all
Like
strangers
you
to me,
and
apart from one or two
you
in the
and Catch in
village.
the phone, I was like, oh, can I speak to so-and-so?
Than I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you something else about the friendships we struck up during this. They've been struck up during times of trouble. And those are the kind of friendships that last.
Very good friendships.
Not superficial friendships.
No.
Like Shirley and I have met a lot of people from Seven Banwe, Nordcroy, through Guyen, on the marches, picking us up in the now to go on the marches, and we've met you all on the buses.
And Picketing.
Yes, and then going to the dances, joining us to the lives. I met a few times. I've met Kay a few times there.
I think the women are taking a bigger role in
Yes,
this strike.
yes, the women
strike.
weren't allowed to do anything.
No. But I tell you what, I would never have visualised myself doing this about 10 months ago. I would never have said that I would
Someone had told you that you were going on the picket lines. Like they would have told me, I would have said there's something wrong with you.
Yes, we would never have said we were
To
going to
get
do
up
things.
at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the picket line.
But I don't think we could. If I was told 10 months ago that I was going to take over Canada Collar, we were the rest of the women. Never in this world would I have done it. But I think what else is happening is that...
And we're proud of it as well.
We got on about 26. I mean, if we lose this, we're not worried about having a repetition of 26. We're worried about having a repetition of 200 years ago.
Yes, more or less.
Of the trade union movement dying.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about people being sent to jail for striking and that. We've got people who died, were shot, were deported for the sake of what we are fighting for now. And I think that needs to be put over.
The confidence I think that I've had out of this through meeting people, having to speak to different people, having to deal with things that you never thought you would have to deal with before. And actually through this, myself and a few friends, and Vina was involved as well, we set up a small cooperative, which hopefully now in the next few months will get off its feet as well, But I mean, if it wasn't for the strike, this sort of thing wouldn't have come about as well. It's going to sort of teach women non-traditional skills and hopefully it's going to be a community cooperative so that people in the community can get benefits out of it as well. So if we set up sort of workshops for woodwork or anything, and people from the community can come and use them. Sort of simple things like mending electrical appliances, kettles and irons, and this sort of thing would cost a vast amount of money to go down underneath anyway to have them mended. This sort of thing can be done in the community. I mean, there are lots of ideas that are coming out of it. We've got a building already, so we're just hoping for the grants to come through now. We can get started on it. The building needs to be renovated. It's just an idea that I had that after the strike I couldn't just sort of sit back and pretend nothing was happening. Something would have to come out of it. This was the idea that I had. And I spoke to a few of my friends and that's what got off the ground.
Disgusting. Ask a couple of women and all these reinforcements protection. Our pickers were turned back this morning in the innocent and we turned back and after said that's what you were doing. I knew you got the wedge right. You are doing this terrible. You please are honestly making a bad name for yourselves. We are quiet here, right? A quiet demonstration. Serious now. You're honestly 1, 2, 3, 4 and these two are coping, all right? Chance they were No, serious now, we were quiet until you all knew. What is the every squad for then?
I mean, the way they are now, we have a couple of police in our police station on the corner of my street. And they used to close night time. If it was a burglary or anything, well, you just got away with it. No policeman. They had to get somebody from Portadown to come down. But now it's absolutely swarming. You can't get in the street either with a car for police vans and policemen. And one day, after we'd been up to Lockie's house, we came down. Of course, we automatically go in shopping to get any shopping what we want. And they all come through the main street. There's only one street, as you know, in this. And they all come down and they all went in different shops, you know, just to let us know they were there, sort of thing.
Well, when we met in Cross Arms, there was only 21 of us there. So we had boys running everywhere to make sure it was safe for the women to go in. They had the barricades already in the baths for us. So we just went in different vans, then one group went in one van, and our group went in another van. Well, we went down to this back road, and there was boys up in the field that was with us, helping us in. We didn't know until the following day that we had to climb up a 6-foot banking. Well, it was pitch black. It was 12 o'clock in the night, and we didn't know. We had to climb up there. We had to go over pits.
With the railway line?
Down the railway line, over the coal. Well, we were black before getting in there. We were black before getting in there. Then we all had to hide behind the pitted baths until our other minibus came with the other girls. We got in, we were really frightened. Petrified.
You were afraid to get confused. I was not frightened. I was.
Yeah, we broke up in 2 groups then, about 5 o'clock in the morning. One group went on one door and the other group went on the other door. Well, we had one of the management came, I think.
Yes, it's
one of the men came first, didn't he?
Oh, one of the scabs came in.
Yeah, the shock when he was there.
And
he didn't come in by the door then.
He tried the door, and then you could hear the women shouting, "You're not coming in here today, you're out." And there was hullabaloo there, wasn't there?
And they were shouting, more, you know.
The manager knocked the door, and he was inquiring how many women were in there. And he said, how many cups of tea, girls? Oh, 200, please. And we never saw the manager that day after.
Oh, we really had some fun.
The boys said to take over the offices.
If we'd had more people, we would have taken the slot then.
But we weren't getting at the men that was working.
No.
We wanted to get at them, we did. We didn't want to get at the management or nothing.
No.
Because, well, we were talking to the manager.
Whatever, so friendly to us.
Well, when we got in there that night, and we barricaded ourselves in. We were all sitting on the tables.
Took us all to move that desk.
And then we heard a knock on the door. We couldn't get in. So he knocked the door again. Anybody there? And we never said a word. And that's all you could hear. It's not them bloody women again. But they found out in the end because we had the press outside, and we said, this time we will try and get as much publicity as we can.
We didn't have much publicity.
But
the management stopped it.
The management stopped it. He ordered them off.
Yeah. He didn't want publicity because it made him look small.
We did get on television telling them where to stuff the ballad.
Oh, yes. So while we were on top of the roofs then, and what the scabs are doing to us and
yeah, so it was
no, these filthy business because they were... Well, one of the scabs exposed himself.
Yes, and the policeman.
Yeah, and the policeman.
The policeman urinated up against the sides of their van so as we could see them from the window. They could have went round the other side of the van, but no, they just wanted to do that side where we could see. So, of course, we gave them a lot of abuse. And abuse.
If we could have stopped there in a few weeks now, say somebody else had come and taken over from us.
Yes, that's what we had planned.
They were quite cheeky in the beginning, but they were beginning to pass us with their heads down sometimes.
Yeah, they were
walking,
collar up. We just wanted to embarrass them, really.
Yes.
And we did embarrass them because they did bring no charges. They let us walk out the front door. They took their barricade down. We took ours down.
it has been passed in our meetings up here, mine, that once a strike is finished, there are other fights to fight, other people's problems to sort out. So the women will still be active.
Yes,
They
and
will
we'll be able to help anybody
going
else.
on to somebody else's problem.
Anybody else that's on strike,
Yeah.
we hope to support them
Yeah.
too, if it's the same
This
case.
will not end with the strike.
Well, the first demonstration we had was in Port Talbot Steelworks in the summer. 100 women there from all over South Wales. The best part of it, we had peace women there. This is where the connection with the peace people start. Well, it didn't start, brought to my attention. This probably starts a long way back. They came from Cardiff to show their support, and they said, right, come on, we're not just going to stand here. We've got to do something. We sit down in the road. Well, I'd never done anything like it before. The best thing I'd done was go up to London and shook a collecting tin, and that was frightening enough. And here I was thinking, what if I get arrested? What about the kids? I suppose everybody thinks that. But I thought, I'm not going to do it, you know. We all say, no, we can't do that. But they sat down, come on women, we've got to do this together. So we just all went forward and sat in the road, and the police just didn't know how to handle it. And the good thing about it, the men followed suit. Now, they'd been there for days, weeks, and they hadn't done anything like it. But the men followed suit. But that was my first taste of it. I only went back 3 times. I chickened out then. But there again, they didn't arrest any women from the support group. All the women arrested were women belonged to the peace group. You know, they picked them out, and they treated them very roughly. We thought we complained to the police inspector who was there, but he said, do it officially. You know, we were so annoyed about it, really, the way they were treated. Not that we want to be treated badly, but why treat them badly? We weren't doing anything different. But, we delayed the lorries, but there's no way you stop the lorries. They just thunder out of there. But I think the men took heart from us there. I'm not saying they've sat in the road again, but that was certainly a turning point for a lot of us in taking action. We weren't afraid of the police anymore. They were the enemy. They still are the enemy. Yeah. Well, the idea of this government is to close pits to increase nuclear power. And, well, byproduct of nuclear power is nuclear weapons, isn't it? Because CND decided to run a bus up to Greenham Common on September the 30th when they had it was the last day of the 10 million women at Greenham. And we filled a bus 53-seater, which I thought was really good when the CND has been a bit hard pushed to get perhaps 6 to go up there, because we didn't have an active CND really in the area. And, the women can see the connection. A lot of them have joined CND, and I think it's a link that will never be broken. You can see, without having someone from CND coming to tell us, we could see the links between the rundown of the coal industry and the increase in the nuclear industry. And it's very frightening. I mean, if you're just closing pits full stop, it's bad enough, but to threaten all our futures with this nuclear power and nuclear weapons, it's disgusting. I don't have a minute. It's just like having got a part-time job, it's having a second part-time job. Especially, we twinned with a lot of places in London, and we invite them down to visit our group, so they can see where their money's going. And once they meet the families, then you know you've made that personal link. Instead of them just given to somebody down in South Wales, they're given to families in South Wales. And before Christmas I was organising accommodation, and the people coming through here on a Saturday is terrific. After 30 people passing through, it's like clearing house for the accommodation. And if anybody told me sort of a year last January they'd be talking to all these people, I would have said no. I would have locked the front door. That's the personal difference it's made. I think it's made me more aware of other things, you know, that while I've been aware of them before, that they affect me. It's not just something you read in the paper, somebody else. Everything that's happening in the world affects me personally. I think that's the main thing. Twinned with lots of areas in London, the Brent and Algo in particular, that's what's kept us going, that's what's fed us the last few months, because we'd really milked this area dry of money, so we had to go outside Wales. So we twinned with various places, the Brent NUT, Brent and Algo, the lesbians and gays. They've been very, very good, very supportive. Now these are links outside the coal mining industry we've made that I think will keep up.
because we sort of stood up and said, well, you know, we're not going to take any more. This is enough. This is the way we say no pit closures, and that's what it starts with, and no to any other cuts or putting a working class down. I think all the people who are active in their own little groups, you know, political parties or whatever, they've been fighting their battles individually, as an individual group. Well, I know we're linked together, a lot of us are linked together now. So I think she ought to be frightened by that. If she's even aware it's going on, I think she's so out of touch she probably isn't even aware it's going on. We'll surprise her one day.